In a world where a single photograph can be worth thousands of dollars, where privacy is a luxury only the anonymous can afford, and where the line between adoration and obsession has all but vanished, there exists a paradox that has consumed some of the brightest stars humanity has ever known. This is the story of fame, not the glittering fantasy sold in magazines and on social media feeds, but the raw, unfiltered reality that lies beneath the surface. It is a tale of validation sought but never truly found, of wealth that cannot buy peace, and of spotlights so bright they can blind those who stand within them. Welcome to the dark side of celebrity culture, where the very thing millions dream of achieving becomes the nightmare from which there is no escape. The red carpet stretches before them like a gilded pathway to paradise. Cameras flash in brilliant cascades of light, creating a strobing effect that disorients and dazzles in equal measure. Thousands of voices call out their names with desperate urgency, each one hoping to be the voice that gets acknowledged, the face that gets remembered. For the famous, this is not merely an event. It is their existence, their daily reality, their inescapable truth. But what happens when the applause fades and the doors close? What becomes of those who discover that fame, the very thing they believed would complete them, has instead hollowed them out from within? To understand the modern obsession with celebrity, one must first recognize that this is not a new phenomenon. Since the dawn of recorded history, humanity has elevated certain individuals above the masses, bestowing upon them titles, wealth, and recognition. Kings and queens, warriors and poets, explorers and inventors, all received their measure of fame. But something fundamental has shifted in our contemporary age. The advent of mass media, and more recently, social media platforms, has democratized fame in ways previously unimaginable. Now, anyone with a smartphone and an internet connection can potentially reach millions. The pathway to recognition has never been wider, yet the psychological toll it extracts has never been more severe. The culture we inhabit today thrives on recognition. From childhood, many are conditioned to seek approval, to measure their worth by the attention they receive from others. Social media has amplified this tendency exponentially. Every post, every photograph, every comment becomes a referendum on one's value as a human being. Likes and followers transform into currency more precious than gold. In this environment, the desire to become famous is no longer seen as unusual or exceptional. It has become normalized, even expected. Children declare they want to be famous as a career goal in itself, without necessarily possessing any particular talent or skill. The fame has become the end, rather than the means. But psychologists who have studied the phenomenon of celebrity extensively have uncovered troubling patterns. Many individuals who pursue fame with relentless determination are not seeking recognition for their accomplishments at all. Rather, they are seeking something far more fundamental: validation. This validation, they hope, will fill a void created in childhood, perhaps by neglect, by emotional abuse, by parents who withheld love or provided it only conditionally. The applause of strangers becomes a substitute for the approval of those who mattered most. It is a transaction doomed to fail, for external validation can never truly heal internal wounds. Consider the tragic case of Elvis Presley, once hailed as the king of rock and roll. At the height of his career, Elvis was adored by millions. His concerts sold out within minutes. His films drew massive crowds. His music defined an entire generation and changed the landscape of popular culture forever. Yet behind the sequined jumpsuits and magnetic stage presence lived a deeply troubled man. Those closest to Elvis remember his final years with profound sadness. The substance abuse that eventually claimed his life was not merely recreational. It was self-medication for pain that ran soul deep. After the death of his beloved mother, Gladys, Elvis was never the same. Friends and associates noted that he seemed to seek out relationships that mirrored the maternal bond he had lost, often dating much younger women whom he could mold and control in ways that echoed the mother-son dynamic he desperately missed. The psychological damage was evident to those who knew him well, yet no one could stop his descent. Why? Because Elvis was surrounded by enablers, people whose livelihoods depended on his continued productivity. This phenomenon, often called the entourage effect, is one of the most insidious aspects of fame. When a celebrity employs dozens of people, security guards, personal assistants, managers, publicists, drivers, chefs, stylists, those employees become financially dependent on their famous employer. If the star stops working, they stop earning. This creates a perverse incentive structure where those closest to the celebrity have strong motivation to keep them working, even when rest, rehabilitation, or intervention is desperately needed. Moreover, family members often find themselves in similarly compromised positions. A famous person may financially support parents, siblings, extended relatives, and childhood friends. While this generosity is admirable, it creates a power dynamic where honest feedback becomes difficult to deliver. How does a brother tell his celebrity sibling that they need help when that brother's mortgage is paid by the celebrity's earnings? How does a parent express concern about destructive behavior when they live in a house their famous child purchased for them? The result is that many celebrities find themselves surrounded by people who tell them only what they want to hear, never what they need to hear. Kurt Cobain, the voice of a generation and frontman of Nirvana, met a similarly tragic end. Despite being loved by millions of fans worldwide, despite creating music that spoke to the alienation and pain felt by countless young people, Cobain could not escape his own demons. The fame that elevated him also isolated him. He spoke openly about feeling trapped by expectations, about being uncomfortable with the worship and adoration directed at him, about the disconnect between who he was and who people believed him to be. In the end, not even the love of devoted fans could save him from himself. John Lennon's story illustrates yet another dark facet of fame, the way it can make one a target. By 1980, Lennon had largely retreated from public life. After years of relentless touring, recording, and media scrutiny with the Beatles, and then as a solo artist, he had chosen a different path. He lived quietly in New York City with his wife, the artist Yoko Ono, focusing his energy on raising their young son, Sean. He had found something rare for someone of his stature: contentment away from the spotlight. He took walks in Central Park. He baked bread. He played with his child. For a man who had spent the previous 2 decades as one of the most famous people on the planet, this domestic tranquility was a hard-won victory. But fame does not release its grip easily. On December 8, 1980, as Lennon returned home from a recording session, a young man stepped out of the shadows outside the Dakota apartment building. His name was Mark David Chapman. He raised a gun and fired 5 shots into Lennon's back. The former Beatle, the man who had written Imagine and dreamed of a world at peace, died on the sidewalk, bleeding out while the city he loved looked on in horror. What makes this tragedy even more disturbing is the motivation behind it. Chapman was not a political extremist or a crazed stalker in the traditional sense. He was a man who wanted to be famous himself. He knew that killing John Lennon would guarantee his name would be remembered. In a grotesque inversion of celebrity culture, he achieved his own twisted version of fame through the murder of someone genuinely famous. Decades later, his name is still known. Books have been written about him. Films have explored his psychology. In death, Lennon gave Chapman the very thing he craved: recognition. It is a chilling reminder that fame can attract not just admirers, but monsters. The paparazzi culture that dominates modern celebrity life has its roots in mid-20th century Europe. In the 1940s, Hollywood studios began hiring photographers to capture behind the scenes moments during film production. These carefully curated images gave fans a glimpse into the lives of their favorite stars, while allowing the studios to maintain strict control over the public personas of their contracted actors. Every photograph was intentional, every image approved. Stars were presented as paragons of glamour, sophistication, and moral virtue, whether or not that matched reality. By the 1950s, however, economic pressures forced Hollywood to change. Filming in Los Angeles had become prohibitively expensive, and many productions relocated to Europe, particularly Italy, where costs were lower and exotic locations abundant. This geographical shift created an opening for a new kind of photographer, one who did not work for the studios, who operated independently, and who had no interest in maintaining carefully crafted public images. The first true paparazzi photograph is generally credited to a shot taken in Italy featuring Hollywood actress Anita Ekberg and her husband, actor Anthony Steele. The image captured Steele visibly intoxicated and Ekberg looking distressed and angry, a stark contrast to the happily married couple image they had been selling to the public. This single photograph pulled back the curtain and revealed that celebrities were not the flawless beings presented in studio publicity materials. They were human, flawed, sometimes messy, and the public was fascinated. The term paparazzi itself comes from Federico Fellini's 1960 film La Dolce Vita, in which a news photographer character is named Paparazzo. The name, which Fellini reportedly chose because it suggested the buzzing of an insect, perfectly captured the persistent, swarming nature of these photographers. By the 1960s, Rome was crawling with paparazzi who staked out restaurants, hotels, and nightclubs, waiting for celebrities to make mistakes or reveal something scandalous. Today, the paparazzi industry has evolved into a sophisticated ecosystem driven by simple economics. A single photograph can sell for thousands of dollars, sometimes tens of thousands, if it captures the right moment. What determines the right moment? Controversy, scandal, drama. A photograph of a celebrity walking down a red carpet at a premiere is worth relatively little because it is expected and unremarkable. But a photograph of that same celebrity having a public meltdown, looking disheveled, or being caught in a compromising situation can be worth a fortune. This economic reality creates a perverse set of incentives. Paparazzi do not profit from celebrities behaving well. They profit from celebrities behaving badly. Therefore, some photographers have been known to deliberately antagonize their subjects, hoping to provoke an angry reaction that can be captured on camera. Others follow celebrities relentlessly, tracking their movements, bribing parking attendants and restaurant servers for information, even going through garbage in search of clues about their subject's next destination. It is stalking, pure and simple, but it is stalking that society has decided is acceptable when the target is famous. Justin Bieber's complicated relationship with the paparazzi exemplifies the psychological toll this constant surveillance exacts. On one occasion, as Bieber attempted to exit a driveway, photographers crowded so closely around his vehicle that he could barely see. Lights flashed incessantly, cameras clicked, voices shouted. As he slowly maneuvered his truck forward, one photographer fell, or perhaps threw himself, to the ground. The resulting images showed Bieber's vehicle near the fallen man, and the headlines screamed that the pop star had run over a photographer. What those headlines did not mention was that after the incident, while other photographers continued snapping pictures of the scene, Bieber stopped his vehicle, got out, and attempted to check on the man's condition. The images of him showing concern did not sell, as well as the implication of reckless behavior, so they received far less attention. Kanye West's 2013 confrontation with a TMZ cameraman at Los Angeles International Airport provides another window into the celebrity experience. The cameraman, to his credit, was not being antagonistic. He was actually complimenting West, expressing admiration for his music. But West, fresh off a flight and undoubtedly exhausted, wanted none of it. He erupted, lunging at the man, telling him never to speak to him or anyone he knew again. The outburst was captured on video and circulated widely, with many condemning West's behavior as entitled and disproportionate. But consider the context for a moment. Imagine being followed everywhere you go. Imagine never being able to exit an airport, enter a restaurant, or walk down a street without multiple people with cameras documenting your every move. Imagine being approached constantly by strangers who feel entitled to your time and attention simply because they recognize your face. Now imagine experiencing this every single day for years. The psychological toll would be immense. The miracle, perhaps, is not that celebrities occasionally lose their temper, but that they do not do so more often. Blac Chyna's August 2018 encounter with paparazzi came at a particularly vulnerable moment. Her mother had recently made disparaging public comments about her, and rather than being allowed to process this family pain privately, Chyna found herself pursued by even more photographers, all hoping to capture her reaction to the controversy. When one cameraman approached her in a way she found intrusive, she snapped. yelling at him to turn off his camera and explaining that this constant harassment was precisely why she rarely left her home. It was a moment of raw, honest emotion, and it was immediately commodified and sold to the highest bidder. Paris Jackson, daughter of the late Michael Jackson, has spoken candidly about the unique pressures of being famous without having chosen fame herself. At the 2018 Met Gala, as she made her way to her vehicle through the standard wall of photographers, one called out, "Hey, doo-doo head." Paris stopped, visibly upset, and confronted the man. That nickname, she explained, had been her father's special name for her, a term of endearment between parent and child. For a stranger, particularly a photographer trying to get a reaction, to use it felt like a violation of something sacred. The incident highlights how the paparazzi will exploit even the most personal, intimate details of a celebrity's life in pursuit of a photograph that might sell. Kendall Jenner's experience with TMZ following the arrest of a stalker in 2018 reveals another frightening dimension of fame. After the network broadcast detailed information about her home location, including photographs of the property and surrounding area, Jenner took to Twitter to express her fury. While she acknowledged that being in the public eye came with certain expectations and loss of privacy, she argued that putting her physical safety at risk crossed a fundamental line. By broadcasting where she lived, TMZ had essentially provided a map for anyone who wished to find her, including potential stalkers, criminals, or unstable fans. The distinction between public interest and public safety had been completely disregarded in the pursuit of content and clicks. Cara Delevingne's 2014 Twitter rant about the paparazzi compared them to assassins hiding in bushes, waiting for the perfect shot. It was a chilling metaphor, but not an inaccurate one. Like assassins, paparazzi study their targets, learn their patterns, predict their movements. Like assassins, they wait in concealment for hours or even days. Like assassins, they strike when the target is most vulnerable. The only difference is the weapon, a camera instead of a gun. But the psychological damage inflicted can be just as devastating, particularly when accumulated over time. What drives these photographers? Money, certainly. A single good photograph can pay rent for months. But many who have spent years in the industry describe something else, a strange parasocial relationship with their subjects. One photographer who followed Britney Spears during her very public breakdown in the mid-2000s later admitted that he and his colleagues had become something like a family to her. She had no one else in her life at that time, he explained, and they were always there. Some photographers develop genuine affection for the celebrities they follow and will refuse to shoot them during particularly difficult or vulnerable moments. Others have even dated their subjects, as Spears herself did when she entered a brief relationship with a paparazzo. This blurring of boundaries creates a surreal dynamic where the hunter and the hunted develop relationships, where the person whose privacy is being invaded comes to depend on the very people invading it for companionship and human connection. It speaks to the profound isolation that fame creates, an isolation so complete that even those who profit from one's pain can become sources of comfort simply by virtue of their constant presence. Yet despite the clear downsides, not all celebrities view their fame negatively. Will Smith has been remarkably candid about his love of being famous. In interviews, he has explained that his life before fame involved struggle, uncertainty, and frequent feelings of powerlessness. Now, he knows that he and his family will always be taken care of. If someone falls ill, they will receive the best medical care immediately. If there is a problem, resources exist to solve it. This sense of security, Smith argues, far outweighs the inconveniences of being recognized everywhere or dealing with invasive media attention. Smith's perspective represents a healthy relationship with fame, one built on gratitude rather than entitlement, on recognition of privilege rather than complaint about burden. He acknowledges the downsides openly, but has made a conscious choice not to let them diminish his appreciation for the opportunities fame has provided. It is a mindset born of maturity and self-awareness, qualities that appear to be protective factors against the psychological damage fame can inflict. Henry Cavill, the British actor who portrayed Superman on the big screen, offers a more straightforward assessment. He loves being famous, because he loves the money. In an era where celebrities often feel compelled to downplay their wealth or pretend money is not a motivating factor, Cavill's honesty is refreshing. He enjoys being able to shop without checking price tags, to pick up the tab when out with friends, to live comfortably without financial stress. He is not ashamed of this, nor should he be. Financial security is a legitimate benefit of success, and acknowledging that does not make one shallow or materialistic. Robert Downey Jr., whose own journey from addiction and incarceration to becoming one of Hollywood's highest paid actors reads like a redemption story for the ages, has channeled his fame toward philanthropic ends. He and his wife established Random Act Funding, an organization that promotes kindness and provides assistance to those in need, with a particular focus on helping children. Downey's story demonstrates that fame can be leveraged for genuine good, that the platform it provides can amplify voices and causes that might otherwise go unheard. But for every celebrity who navigates fame successfully and cultivate devoted followings, the barrier to entry for fame has never been lower, which means more people than ever are experiencing its psychological effects, often without the resources or support systems that traditional celebrities might access. Perhaps the most important lesson we can draw from examining the dark side of fame is this: external validation will never be enough. The applause of strangers cannot fill the void left by childhood wounds. The admiration of millions cannot substitute for genuine human connection. Fame can provide many things: wealth, opportunity, influence, but it cannot provide the things humans need most deeply: authentic love, true belonging, and a sense of inherent worth that exists independent of achievement or recognition. Those who navigate fame most successfully are those who understand this truth. They maintain close relationships with people who knew them before they were famous. They pursue therapy and other forms of mental health support. They set boundaries between their public and private lives. They use their platforms for purposes beyond self-promotion. They remember that fame is what they do, not who they are. In the end, the story of fame is a mirror held up to society itself. What we see in the struggles of the famous reflects our own values, our own insecurities, our own desperate hunger for meaning and connection in an increasingly fragmented world. The celebrities are merely the ones brave enough, or foolish enough, to step into the spotlight and show us what happens when that hunger is amplified to its logical extreme. So now we turn to you, the audience. What do you think about fame and its consequences? Is it worth the price it demands? Should celebrities be allowed to voice their struggles when they enjoy so many advantages? Hit that subscribe button below to join us as we continue exploring the hidden truths behind the stories that shape our culture. And in the comments, share your perspective. If you could be famous tomorrow, with all the benefits and all the costs we've discussed here today, would you take that deal? Why or why not?